Hi, my name is Forrest Folletti. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about emotional disturbance disorders. So to start out, we're just going to define what an emotional disturbance disorder is. Comes straight from the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. So straight from their words, they define an emotional disturbance disorder as a condition exhibiting one or more of the following characteristics of time into a marked degree that adversely affects a child's educational performance. And, and then these are the conditions: an inability to learn, not caused by intellectual, sensory, or health factors, inability to build or maintain satisfactory interpersonal, inappropriate types of behavior or feelings under normal circumstances, general pervasive mood of unhappiness or depression, tendency to develop physical symptoms or fears associated with personal or school problems. So getting a little deeper of emotional disturbance disorders, a lot of people this is what a lot of people think of when mental illness nowadays. So I found this definition for mental illness as a medical conditions that disrupt a person's thinking, ability to relate to others, and daily functioning. And then under emotional disturbance, these can be manifest with hyperactivity, aggression, or self-injurious behavior, withdrawal from peers or teachers or people around them, immaturity. We mean more like emotional immaturity. So maybe mood swings, breaking down and crying, anger, and learning difficulties as well. So here's a really interesting site out that shows different demographics about emotional disturbance disorders, how frequent they are, the kinds of people who suffer with them. So we'll just wait a second for these to load. Now, these come from data, I think the 2019 is the latest, so some of this may be a little different now, but here's a map showing the prevalence in different states. The range is quite wide, from 1.65 to 17.36. And this website has all kinds of different demographics. You can see people who aren't English language learners versus those who are. This one's interesting. It shows that the prevalence is actually going down, but I would be interested to see the data now that after in kind of a post-COVID world, how that affected things. You can see here it shows that people with emotional disturbance disorders usually have a harder time graduating and drop out at a higher rate than those with other. So there's just all kinds of different things on here. You can see prevalence according to race and ethnicity, the different discipline according to disability, and then prevalence by gender. So there's all kinds of different infographics on here that talk a lot about the frequency and demographics of this disorder. Moving on, the causes of emotional disturbance aren't really, there's not a single cause that causes any of the disorders under emotional disturbance. But there are some factors that can lead to somebody developing one of these. One of these is just hereditary. So it could be prevalent in your family or just the way that your genes are. You develop one of these disorders. Another one is a brain disorder or a chemical imbalance in the brain. Diet can be a factor. Also family function. So maybe if your family situation is less than ideal, it can things. Obviously, it can be a factor of stress as well and diet. So a lot of them kind of fall into each other. like it says, there's no one single cause of emotional disturbance disorders. So when we say emotional disturbance, uh, it's a very broad term, and there's a lot of different specific disorders that fall under it. One of these is anxiety. Now, most people every now and then will experience anxiety, but is like an excessive and constant anxiety that can't be controlled, is overwhelming and impairs function. So when it says anxiety disorders, even this is an umbrella term, and really fits any kind of that symptom of irrational fear. So this can be just like a regular generalized anxiety disorder, obsessive disorder, which we'll talk about a little bit later, post-traumatic stress disorder, social anxiety, or phobias can be classified as an anxiety disorder. Another one is bipolar disorder. This is characterized by mood swings. Very quickly, a person with bipolar disorder may be very angry and irritable, and then move from sadness or anywhere in between. Conduct disorders are disorders that cause them to act out in an abnormal way. They usually have difficulty following rules and often will commit serious violations of rules, things such as aggression, destruction of property, lying and deceitfulness, or other things like that. Continuing, another emotional disturbance disorder are eating disorders. The extreme behaviors in eating, whether it's too much or too little, or it can be specific disorders. Or another one is obsessive compulsive disorder, which was mentioned under anxiety disorders. This is characterized by constant unwanted thoughts, which are called obsessions, and then repetitive actions known as compulsion. The way that this disorder works is a person will have these obsessions that that are constantly in their head, and they will have compulsion, act in a certain way to satiate the obsessions. This one is thought to be the cause of a chemical imbalance in the brain. And we could talk very specifically about disorders, but I do have an interesting video here that we're going to go to real quick that kind of shows a little bit of the experience of somebody who has obsessive compulsive disorder. I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions about it. A lot of people think that if you want to be, if you're very neat and tidy, or you want things to be clean, that means that you have this disorder, but that's not exactly the case. You can see in this video, this person is, they have this constant thought in their head to wash their hands 3 times. And so that's the obsession, and the compulsion is to do it to try to save that. So they have to wash 3 times before they can continue living their life or continue with their day. And washing your hands, it can be any kind of obsession, obsessive thought that a person may have. And then the last one under emotional disturbance disorders are psychotic disorders. These are mental disorders that normal thinking and perception. So these can be like hallucinations, delusions, and then specific things like schizophrenia can also be others. So if you're an educator and you have a student who has an emotional disturbance disorder, here are some suggestions, some things you can do to try to accommodate them in your classroom. The first thing that you should do is understand the disability. The emotional disturbance, as we've seen, covers a lot of things. So it's important to know exactly what it is and how that will set you on the way to know how to help the student. Then you want to provide an educational plan that will not only provide that emotional and behavioral support, the things that school is there for, academics, social skills, self-awareness, self-esteem, those kinds of things. As you're giving instruction in the classroom, you want to be very clear. You want to give step-by-step instructions. And I also saw some tips that said to give breaks every now and then to try to help alleviate some of the stress that comes from these disorders. Another important thing you want is behavioral support, because a lot of these disorders cause students to act out. You want to try to do is minimize negative behaviors and praise and foster the positive ones. And this will help students to know to work and be able to do feel good about going to school and doing the things in school, and also help maintain control in the classroom and avoid acting out and things like that. And then another tip I saw, and this is something you have to be very careful about, only if wherein it is appropriate, maybe do a check-in with the student with you. Obviously, you want to get permission and make sure that this is okay to do. In most cases, you want to refer them to the school psychologist or counselor, but when appropriate, this may be something that can help as well. So, thank you.